to the descending tracts. Descending tracts, these are the tracts that originate from the motor cortex. They are motor tracts. Descending tracts are pyramidal and extrapyramidal tracts. These two tracts are motor tracts that are responsible for the skilled voluntary movements in the body. Pyramidal tract is a largest tract that starts from the motor cortex and end up to the last segment of the spinal cord. The fibers passes from the motor area to the spinal ventral horn cells of each spinal cord, each spinal and also to the all the motor nuclei except supplying the external eye muscle. Now these pyramidal tracts can be further classified into corticospinal tract and corticobulbar tract. Now we move to corticospinal tract. Corticospinal tract is a motor tract, pyramidal tract, and responsible for the connection between the motor cortex up to the cell, ventral horn cells of the spinal cord. So the origin of these fibers, the pyramidal tract fibers arises from 30% is from the motor cortex area 4, 30% from the premotor area 6, and 40% from the somatosensory area 1 and 2. Now we can see the fibers arise from the cerebral cortex and converge to the brain stem as a radiating mass called corona radiata. See here we can see the pyramidal fiber there started from the area 4, area 6, and area 8, mainly from 4 and 6, mainly from the 4 and 6. Then the fibers they converge, forming a corona radiata and enters into the internal capsule. Internal capsule. Now here we can see situation in the internal capsule. Here the pyramidal tract lies in the bend and the anterior two-thirds of the posterior limb of internal capsule. So the fibers, here we can see the arrangement of the fibers that is in the anterior two-thirds of the posterior limb of internal capsule. Here, point-to-point discrimination for controlling the movements from head to toe is represented from anterior to the or arranged from anterior to posterior. Here we can see the face, then arms, then legs, toe. The arrangement is from anterior to posterior. The internal capsule has got arrangement from point to point discrimination. Now fibers from the internal capsule they enters into the midbrain. The midbrain portion pyramidal tract occupies the middle 3/5 of this region, midbrain. See here we can see the pyramidal tract they are occupying 3/5 of the region. Here pyramidal tract can be seen easily. Then from the fibers from the midbrain they enters into the pons, and while entering in the pons, the tract is broken into a series of scattered bundles. See, these are the series of scattered bundles, and they are scattered because of nuclear pontis and crossing of the middle cerebral peduncles that comes in between. So these neurons of the middle cerebral peduncles or nucleus pontis they divide the pyramidal tract into scattered bundles. Now in the medulla, after coming out from the pons, the fibers reunite and they enters into the medulla as a thick bundle. That's why giving a separate bulge that is called pyramid. Hence the name is given to the tract, pyramidal tract. In the lower medulla, about 80 to 85% of the fibers cross to the opposite side and enters into the lateral white column. And these fibers are known as lateral corticospinal tract. The lateral corticospinal tract extends throughout the whole cord. At each segment, some of the fibers of the lateral corticospinal tract leave and ends round the anterior horn cells, either directly or through interneurons. About 15 to 20% fibers that does not cross and enters the anterior white column near the median fissure and descend down as a anterior corticospinal tract. These fibers also ends around the anterior horn cell of the same site, and these fibers does not extend beyond the lower cervical or mid thoracic region. Here we can see in the diagram. Hey, we can see that the fibers they are arising from the cortex, then they converge up to the internal capsule as corona radiata, then they passes into the internal capsule. In the internal capsule, they are arranged. They pass through the anterior two-third of the posterior limb, anterior two-third of the posterior limb, and the point-to-point discrimination from head to toe is anterior to posterior. The fibers then passes from the internal capsule into the midbrain, and in the midbrain they occupy almost 3/5 of the portion of the medulla, and from the medulla the fibers they enters into the pons where they form a scattered bundles due to nucleus pontis and inferior cerebral peduncle. Fibers of the inferior cerebral peduncle they divide the tract into scattered bundles. Then these fibers these fibers they unite after passing from the pons in the upper medulla. They form a pyramid, and here in the lower pons the fibers about 80 to 85% fibers they cross 80 to 85% fibers. See here it is, you can see that 80 to 85% cross to the opposite side. So these fibers they cross opposite side and they passes to the lateral white column. They passes from the lateral white column and ends in the anterior horn cells. Here the lower motor neuron starts. These fibers, they are pyramidal fibers. They are ending around the anterior horn cells. They can end in directly or through interneurons, and then they are putting their influence over the lower motor neuron, and the lower motor neuron supplies to the skeletal muscle. So this is lateral corticospinal tract, and anterior corticospinal tract. Anterior corticospinal tract is constitute about 10 to 15% fibers. They remains on the same side. They remains on the same side and does not cross. And these are anterior corticospinal tract. And these fibers also passes from the into the lateral white column and ends around the anterior horn cells and also influence the activity of the lower motor neuron. But these fibers, anterior corticospinal tract fibers, does not cross beyond mid thoracic region. They finish up to the mid thoracic region, while the lateral corticospinal tract they ends up to the last segment of the spinal cord. Now we move to functions of the pyramidal tract. Functions is of the pyramidal tract. These are, first of all, we will discuss about it controls the fine scale voluntary movement, especially of the distal limb muscles for the precise movements of the fingers and hand, so that work can be done skillfully. So this control is through lateral corticospinal tract. Lateral corticospinal tract controls the fine scale voluntary movements, especially of the distal limb muscles, precise movements of the fingers and hands to carry out the skilled work. While the anterior corticospinal tract is responsible for control of the muscles of the trunk and proximal muscles of the limb to control the postural adjustment and gross movements. So lateral corticospinal tract is responsible for fine scale voluntary movements of the distal limb muscles, while the anterior corticospinal tract is responsible for the postural adjustment and gross movements. Now Third activity, that it controls the activity of alpha motor neuron. It may excite or inhibit the activity by forming the synapse with alpha motor neuron. Here we can see we have already seen that the and lateral corticospinal tract is ending around in the anterior horn cell, ending around or forming a synapse with the uh, lower motor neurons. They can directly or indirectly through interneurons act on lower motor neuron. So their activity can be excitatory or inhibitory. Similarly, anterior corticospinal tract passes from the white column and ends around the lower motor neuron and the anterior horn of the spinal cord. And as we know that the anterior horn of the spinal cord is motor, so it controls the activity of alpha motor neuron and it may excite or inhibit the activity by forming synapse with the alpha motor neuron. Then it controls the pathway for superficial reflexes such as abdominal, premastic, or plantar reflexes. Now, now that it controls the sensory and motor coordination as the pyramidal tract of motor area that is connected with the somatosensory area 1 and 2 and the parietal lobe. So these are responsible for sensory motor coordination through the corticospinal tract arising from the somatic sensory area 1 and 2 and parietal lobe association cortex. As we have already discussed, the area 4 fibers, they send fibers to somatic areas, so they are responsible for sensory motor coordination. Now, function of corticobulbar tract. Corticobulbar tract are the fibers of the pyramidal fiber that reaches to the only muscles in the brain stem. So this is called as corticobulbar tracts. Corticobulbar tract controls the precise voluntary movement of the eye, tongue, neck, chewing, facial expression, speech, and swallowing. So these are the fibers of the pyramidal tract that ends up around the nuclei in the brain stem, while the fibers that reaches to the spinal cord are called corticospinal. The word itself suggests the corticobulbar is from the cortex to the brain stem. That means the fibers, pyramidal fibers that arises from the cortex, motor cortex, ends around the nuclei of the brain stem. So they are concerned with the voluntary movement of the eye, tongue, neck, chewing, and facial expression, speech, swallowing. So all these cranial nuclei are situated in the brain stem. Now we should know about the pseudobulbar palsy. It is a condition that results in paralysis or weakness of the muscle, which controls the swallowing, talking, tongue, and lip movements due to bilateral lesion of corticobulbar tract. See, from here we can discuss that the corticospinal tract, they starts from the cortex and reaches up to the spinal cord, and those fibers, they start from the cortex and reaches to the nuclei in the brainstem or cranial nuclei in the brainstem, that is called corticobulbar tract. So the pyramidal tract are classified into corticospinal tract and corticobulbar tract. Corticospinal tracts are divided into lateral corticospinal tract and anterior corticospinal tract. Now we will start extrapyramidal tracts. The descending fibers that form synapses. See, descending fibers that form synapses in their descending path with the nuclei of the cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, hypothalamus, and the nuclei of the reticular formation in the brainstem. These are called as extrapyramidal tracts. Thus extrapyramidal tracts constitutes extrapyramidal tract constitutes descending fibers that synapses with the nuclei of cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, hypothalamus, and nuclei of reticular formation in the brainstem. Accordingly, these are divided into extrapyramidal tracts are rubrospinal tract, vestibulospinal tract, reticulospinal tract, tectospinal and tectobulbar tracts, and medial longitudinal fasciculus. So first is we will have just few words we should know about the rubrospinal tract. It originates from the red nucleus located in the midbrain. So that's why the name is there. Rubro means red nucleus. The fibers originate from the red nucleus located in the midbrain. And these fibers are responsible for excitation of flexor group of muscles and inhibition of extensor muscles. And these tracts, in association with the pyramidal tracts, are responsible for skilled voluntary movements. Now, vestibulospinal tract, as the name suggests, it originates from the lateral vestibular nuclei. This lateral vestibular nucleus located at the junction of pons and medulla. And this fibers, this lateral vestibular nuclei receives input from otolith organs and semicircular canal. That's why it controls the body posture in relation to the angular and linear acceleration. Now, reticulospinal tract, this tract originates from the neurons of the reticular formation in the pons and medulla. Hence the name is reticulospinal. Retico means reticular formation. Retico neurons from the reticular formation in the pons and medulla to the spinal cord. So they have got two divisions: medial division and lateral divisions. Medial division facilitates the movement of voluntary movement by influencing gamma motor neuron. These medial division are fibers from pontine reticular formation, while the lateral division that are fibers from the medullary reticular formation inhibits the voluntary movements by influencing gamma motor neuron. So they can be excitatory or inhibitory over the motor neurons. Accordingly, which division is involved, medial division or lateral division. In addition, the reticulospinal tract can also alter muscle tone, respiration, and blood pressure. In addition, these are extrapyramidal tracts. Then we move to tectospinal and tectobulbar tract. This tectospinal tract or tectobulbar tract, they originate from the superior colliculus, crosses to the opposite side at once, and descend up to the lower cervical region. They are responsive for reflex postural movement in response to the visual and auditory stimulus. See, main function is done by the pyramidal tracts, but these are extrapyramidal tracts also perform the functions of the pyramidal tracts. So, tectospinal and tectobulbar tract, these originate from the superior colliculus nucleus. They crosses at once to the opposite side and descend up to the lower cervical region, and is responsible for reflex postural movements in response to visual and auditory stimuli. Then medial longitudinal fasciculus. This is very important. Medial longitudinal fasciculus. It originates from the medial vestibular nucleus, reticular formation, superior colliculus, and interstitial nucleus of Kazan. The tract descends uncrossed up to the upper cervical region, and it is responsible for coordinated reflex ocular movement and integration of eye and neck movements. In association, this tract is in association with the somatosensory inputs. So there is a responsible. It is responsible for coordination of reflex ocular movements, and in addition, integration of eye and neck movement. So this is all tract, extrapyramidal tract. We have already discussed. We have discussed rubrospinal tract, vestibulospinal tract, reticulospinal tract, tectospinal and tectobulbar tract, medial ganglion and fasciculus. Now we come to the later part of the, that is the difference between lower motor neuron lesion and upper motor neuron lesion. See, lower motor neuron is lesion is due to spinal or cranial motor nuclei, and lesion upper motor neuron is lesion due to motor neurons in the brain and pyramidal, that is through pyramidal or extrapyramidal tract. So lesions of the lower motor neuron is called motor neuron lesion, and upper motor neuron is lesion due to pyramidal and extrapyramidal tract. Here we can see in the diagram. See, in this diagram we can see that this anything happens from the to the fibers of pyramidal tract up to the that is anterior corticospinal and lateral corticospinal tract and anterior corticospinal tract that reaches to the anterior horn. Any lesion above this of these fibers, pyramidal and extrapyramidal fibers, reaching up to the anterior horn cells is called as upper motor neuron lesion, and the lesion involving the neuron that supplies the skeletal muscle from the starting from the anterior horn. This portion, anything happens in this is lower motor neuron lesion, and anything above this is upper motor neuron lesion. So upper motor neuron constitute fibers of pyramidal tract and extrapyramidal tract that ends up in the anterior horn of the spinal cord. They may directly end or may end through interneuron. So these are, any lesion in this portion is called as upper motor neuron lesion, and neuron starting from the anterior horn to the skeletal muscle is lower motor neuron, and anything lesion in this portion, below this portion is lower motor neuron lesion, above this portion is upper motor neuron lesion. See, as we have seen that the only single or individual muscle is affected in the lower motor neuron, because lower motor neuron start from the anterior horn to the muscle, individual muscle. But in upper motor neuron, there is an involvement of group of muscles, because fibers of the pyramidal tract all are landing in the segments of the spinal cord. So their involvement can involve a group of muscles. Now, in this case, single muscle, they may be hypotonic and show flaccid paralysis. But in case of upper motor neuron lesion, the muscles become hypertonic or spastic paralysis can be seen. In this, flaccid muscle shows disuse atrophy, while the muscles does not show any atrophy in the case of upper motor neuron, because they are hypertonic and or they are under the influence of extrapyramidal tract. See, when the function of upper motor neuron or pyramidal tract, there is a lesion of pyramidal tract, the few function is taken up by the extrapyramidal tract. So if the fibers of pyramidal tract are involved in some lesion, then their function can be taken by extrapyramidal tract to some extent. Now the superficial reflexes, they are lost in the lower motor neuron as well as upper motor neuron. Also the superficial reflexes are lost. As we said, we know that the corticospinal tract controls the neurons of the superficial reflexes. Then deep reflexes, they are lost in lower motor neuron, while deep reflexes are hyperactive or exaggerated. Deep reflexes become hyperactive or exaggerated in case of upper motor neuron. Now, Babinski's sign is not present in the lower motor neuron, while Babinski's sign is present in the upper motor neuron. See, usually the response is plantar response, but if we give a what you call as a stimulus on the outside the region of the sole to the firm stimulus is given along the side, outer side of the sole up to from the lesser toe to the greater toe, the response is proper response is plantar response. While in case of Babinski sign positive, the response is when we give a stimulus, firm stimulus from outer side of the sole from the lesser toe towards the greater toe, the greater toe shows dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion, in addition, fanning of the lower toes, other toes, small toes, fanning of the toes, along with the dorsiflexion of the greater toe. This is called Babinski sign positive. So we have discussed, to be summarized, motor cortex. Motor cortex involves 4, 6, and 8 areas. The representation of the on area 4 is of the body is upside down, and the part which is used, the part which is used most is more developed, or which is used skillfully is more developed, and the face, jaw muscles, and pharynx, they have got a bilateral presentation, and plus in addition their presentation is area is more because of their use of skill is more. Then we move to the descending tract. We discuss about the descending tract. Descending tracts are pyramidal tract or hexapyramidal tract. Pyramidal tract is the largest tract that starts from the area 4 and 6, and along with and also the input from somatosensory area. There's the fibers about the fibers converge up to the internal capsule in the form of corona radiata. This is called corona radiata. These are the pyramidal cells or cells of Bates, also called pyramidal cells of Bates, that are present in the motor cortex. Fiber starts from there, ends up into the internal capsule. Then arrangement of the internal capsule is, as we have seen, arrangement is pyramidal tract occupies the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb of the internal capsule, and there is a point-to-point discrimination from head to toe in anterior to posterior position. See, this is anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb of internal capsule. The fibers are passing through this, and they are arranged anterior to posterior from head to toe, and they occupy 2/3 of the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb of the internal capsule. While coming out of the internal capsule, the fibers enter into the midbrain, and they occupy the 3/5 portion of the midbrain. And see here we can see that the pyramidal tract fibers, they are occupying the 3/5 of the midbrain. Then the fibers from the midbrain, they enters into the pons. Once the tract is broken up, the tract is broken into scattered bundles because of the nucleus pontis and fibers of the middle cerebral peduncle. They break the pyramidal tract into scattered bundles. Then the fibers coming out of the pons, they enters into the medulla. You can see they enters into the medulla. The fibers unite, they form a pyramid. That's why the name is given to the pyramid. In the upper medulla, they form a pyramid, and from there the fibers, some of them 80 to 85% of the fibers cross to the opposite sides, and that is called as lateral corticospinal tract, that is called lateral corticospinal tract, and the fibers they does not cross and goes does not cross and passes through the lateral white column. These are anterior corticospinal tract. So these lateral corticospinal tract fibers they end around the anterior horn cell of each spine in the anterior horn cell of each spinal cord, and here we can see that the anterior corticospinal tract also ends around the anterior horn cells, passes on the lateral white column, and this constitute upper motor neuron. The anterior corticospinal tract does not extend beyond mid-thoracic region, while the lateral corticospinal tract reaches up to the last segment of the spinal cord. Both the tracts ends around the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord, and they form synapses with the motor neuron, lower motor neuron, or neurons supplying to the muscles. They form synapses. Each fibers coming out from the lateral corticospinal tract or anterior corticospinal tract forms the synapse with the neuron supplying the striatum muscle through they end directly or may end through interneuron. Here we can see all the fibers ending in the lateral horn cell of the spinal cord, anterior horn cell of the spinal cord, anterior horn cell of the spinal cord. The fibers are ending in the anterior horn cell of the spinal cord. They passes through the lateral white column, ends up in the anterior horn cell of the spinal cord. Each fibers relieving from the main pyramidal tract and around each anterior horn cell. Each anterior horn cell and supplying the lower motor neuron. Then we discuss about the functions. Lateral corticospinal tract controls the voluntary movements because they supply the distal muscles for the precise movements of the fingers. Then anterior corticospinal tract controls the muscles of the trunk and proximal muscles of the limb and controls the posterior adjustment and gross movement. It also controls the activity of alpha motor neuron that we have already discussed because they are forming the synapse with the alpha motor neuron in the lateral horn cell. Anterior horn cell passing through the lateral white column. Here we can see that the activity of the alpha motor neuron, because they may excite or inhibit the activity by forming synapse with the alpha motor neuron in the anterior horn cell of the spinal cord. Then it controls the pathway for superficial reflexes, abdominal and cremastic and plantar reflexes. Then it controls the motor coordination because they've got an association with somatosensory area 1 and 2. Then corticobulbar tracts are descending fibers of the pyramidal tract. They end around the nuclei in the brain stem, and these are responsible for the control of precise movements of eye, tongue, neck, chewing, facial expression, speech, and swallowing. Then pseudobulbar is any lesion in the corticobulbar tract. Bilateral lesion will lead to the paralysis or weakness of the muscles that control swallowing, talking, tongue, and lip movements. Then we discuss extrametaphyseal tract. These fibers are descending fibers that synapses with the nuclei of the cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, hypothalamus, and nucleus of reticular formation in the brainstem. Extrapyramidal tracts are as follows: rubrospinal tract, vestibulospinal tract, reticulospinal tract, tectospinal and tectobulbar tract, and medial longitudinal fasciculus. Rubrospinal tract are the tracts that originate from the red nucleus located in the midbrain, and it may excite the flexor group of muscles and inhibit the extensor group of muscles. Along with the pyramidal tract, they control the activity of skilled voluntary movements. Along with the pyramidal tract, they control the spin molecule movement. Vestibular spinal tract, it originates from the lateral vestibular nucleus located in the junction of pons and medulla. It receives inputs. These this this receives inputs from the otolith or semicircular canal and is responsible for body posture in relation with the angular and linear acceleration. Now, reticulospinal tract, it originates from the neurons of the reticular formation, the pons and medulla. It has got two divisions, medial division or lateral division, medial division. They facilitate the voluntary movements, and lateral division, they inhibit the voluntary movements. In addition, it also alters the muscle tone, respiration, and blood pressure. Then we discussed about tectospinal tract and tectobulbar tract. They originate from the superior colliculus and process to the opposite side. They are responsible for reflex posture movement in response to the visual and auditory stimuli. Medial longitudinal fasciculus is important. It originates from the medial vestibular nucleus, reticular formation, superior colliculus, and interstitial nucleus of Pajan. This tract descends uncrossed up to the cervical region and is responsible for coordination of reflex ocular movements and integration of eye and neck movements. Then lastly, we discussed about the lower motor neuron and upper motor neuron lesions due to the spinal and cranial motor nuclei, and this is lesion due to motor nuclei in the brainstem. We see that the upper motor neuron lesion constitutes from the lesion due to the pyramidal tract that reaches up to the anterior horn cells through the little white column to the motor neuron. Then here lower motor neuron single or individual muscle is affected, while this involves a group of muscles. The muscles in this lower motor neuron are hypotonic, and this is muscles in the upper motor neuron are hypertonic and shows spastic paralysis, while the muscle shows here lower motor neuron muscles shows flaccid paralysis, and these flaccid this disuse atrophy can be seen. The muscles here spastic is because if there is a lesion in the pyramidal tract, some of the fibers of extrapyramidal tract they survive and they give muscle hypertonicity, and this here we can say that disuse atrophy occurs if muscle atrophy is not seen. Here supervision reflexes are lost in both upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron lesion, and deep reflexes are lost in the lower motor neuron, but they are the response of deep reflexes are exaggerated or hyperactive in the upper motor neuron. Babinski's sign is not present in the case of lower motor neuron, but Babinski's sign is present in the upper motor neuron. Thank you.